From Washington, this is VOA News. European monitors are released in Ukraine. An alleged attacker of the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi is brought to the U.S. I'm Vincent Bruce reporting from Washington. Pro-Russian rebels in eastern Ukraine have freed 4 European monitors who've been detained for a month. 4 observers from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe were freed Saturday, a month after they were taken from Lugansk. 4 others seized in Donetsk were let go earlier this week. OSCE officials say all are in good health. It's still unclear why they were taken. The European Union has demanded the separatists and their supporters in Moscow take steps to de-escalate the crisis in eastern Ukraine or face more sanctions. Steps the EU demands include peace talks and letting the OSCE monitors do their jobs. Ahmed Abu Khattala, the accused ringleader of the deadly attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya in 2012, arrived in Washington Saturday. Amid heavy security, Khattala pleaded not guilty in a federal courthouse in Washington. He was brought to Washington from a U.S. Navy ship and was formally charged with murder and terrorism. He faces the death penalty if convicted. The United States accuses him of being the ringleader of the September 11, 2012 attack, which killed U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens and 3 other Americans. Republicans in Congress accuse the Obama administration and State Department of being negligent in providing enough security in a volatile region prone to terrorism. The opening match of the World Cup's round of 16 occurred today. And Brazil won earlier today in a game over Chile 3-2 in penalty kicks. The teams were deadlocked 1-1 after 90 minutes of play and 30 minutes of overtime before going to 2-2 in the penalty shootout. And again, Brazil won it 3-2 in those penalty kicks. In Saturday's other game, Colombia earned its first trip to the World Cup quarterfinals with a 2-0 victory over Uruguay in Rio de Janeiro. The Iraqi army Saturday launched what it calls a major offensive to retake the northern city of Tikrit from Sunni extremists. According to military officials, the main ground operation started with heavy fighting in the city between Sunni rebels and Iraqi special forces attempting to regain control of a university campus. More on these stories at voanews.com. In Syria, reports of at least 12 people being reported dead in a rebel-held Damascus suburb of Douma following a car bombing. Opposition activists accused the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant of being behind the bombing. Edward Yeranian reports for VOA from Cairo.
Amateur video showed rescue workers carrying a bleeding child hurt by the car bomb blast to a makeshift ambulance. Bodies were visible amid the chunks of rubble as fire burned from at least one vehicle. The explosion took place in the rebel-held Damascus suburb of Douma in the northeastern region of the capital, known as the Eastern Ghouta. Rami Abdulrahman of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights told VOA that opposition activists believe the militant Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant was behind the blast because of recent tensions between the group and other rebel groups which control the area. Edward Yeranian for VOA News, Cairo.
Sarajevo is marking 100 years since the first 2 shots of World War I were fired. The choir sang the Serbian anthem. The occasion was being marked with concerts, speeches, and exhibitions celebrating peace in Europe. June 28, 1914, Serb teenager Gavrilo Princip assassinated Austro-Hungarian Crown Prince Franz Ferdinand, who was in the city to inspect his occupying troops. A century later, Sarajevans gathered along the river where Princip fired his shots. In the town of Visegrad, Serbia's Republika Srpska president, Milorad Dodik, called Princip's gunshot not aimed at Europe but for freedom. Austrians in the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra performed works of European composers reflecting the events and promoting unity in Europe. U.S. President Obama says he will continue to take action on his own as long as congressional Republicans block his economic agenda. Speaking in his weekly address, President Obama said he's already taken action to attract new jobs, raise workers' wages, and help students pay off their loans. In the Republican address, Louisiana Representative Bill Cassidy pushed for growing the U.S. energy, manufacturing, and construction industries. I'm Vincent Bruce in Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.